So good evening, everyone. And this evening, we're going to have a fantastic evening with Bethan Wright, who's going to be taking us on a journey of looking at lead generation and how we manage all that through our social media platforms. So to start us off and to help Bethan get a feel for what we're all about and what we're challenged with, I'm going to kick us off by almost like giving everyone my top tip for this evening. And that would be to get your hands on this book, Building a Story Brand, because it can really help you if you're going to be working either developing your own social media content or lead generators. And it can also help you if you're thinking of outsourcing that to somebody else, because it takes you through that whole journey of creating this, what they call a long flow tag that puts all your whatever you do in a context where people get it straight away. And previously, I've always thought that, vision statements was about how I saw I wanted to develop my business, whereas they show you in this book that really the vision statement should be targeted at your customers. So when your customers read your tagline, they understand it with regards to what they need, as opposed to you going on and on and on about, I do this, 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 I do this. And so there's some great tips in here. So if you were working with a Bethan, you could say, here's my tagline, that so people understand what it is that I do. And you could give that to somebody like Bethan, which would be a great start. And then it sort of takes you through all the other things that you need to really get up and running very quickly, putting a marketing plan into action, whether that you're doing that yourself or doing it with somebody like a Bethan. So that would be my top tip. And I guess my biggest challenge, I would say, is that when you're starting up doing this for the first time, it's really challenging because it just seems to take so long. Everything takes so long. So I can imagine why, people do need help from a Bethan, because, yeah. And when you start looking at other people's websites or other people's learning platforms, you think, I can't believe they've done all this work. How have they developed all this work and got it online? Because for me to catch up is going to take an awful lot of time. And I think then part of you thinks, oh, I'm not going to do it. But then part of you thinks, I cannot not do it. So even though you've got to pedal fast for a while, you've almost got to catch up. So that's me. So yes, I hope you can make some sense out of that, Bethan. Yeah. So I'm going to come over now to another Beth. I'm calling her Beth the Pound because she's our financial advisor. So Beth the Pound, could you tell us, first of all, a top tip, and then what challenges do you have?
The thing that surprised me that's worked on social media is when I've actually posted something less professional and more personal. I've had about 7 times as many views. So if I post something that's perfectly crafted about a particular financial angle, gets a certain number of views. Put up a picture of my son and talk about his junior ISA, so much more interaction from people. It's mind-blowing. My issue with online marketing of all sorts, is that the FCA just limits what I can do. So I was explaining to Tina earlier, really when it comes to marketing, I'm very much dependent on word of mouth first and foremost. LinkedIn is the only thing I can use. And even then there's limits on what I can put on, what I can say. So I do really have my hands tied when it comes to marketing.
Right. Thank you, Beth. So I'm going to come now to Ellie. Are you there, Ellie? Foxy Holmes, are you there behind that label that you've put up on screen? What's she doing? Is she chewing toast?
I'm here.
So first of all, what tip can you share when it comes to all this stuff?
Ooh, don't market like Ellie. My biggest issue with social media is I just don't do it enough. And I think, Cheryl, like you just said, I spend a lot of time with a lot of different hats on. So I find that social media is the last thing that I really want to kind of play with, really. So for me, what I found that does work, however, is Google pages. Google My Business seems to be a good one for me. As regards Facebook, Instagram and all the rest of it, it's the be bothered factor. So my top tip, don't market like Ellie does.
But that's a good tip, the fact that, you know, a lot of people ignore Google My Business, yet Google is the biggest search engine. So again, you know, are we all keeping our Google pages up to speed? So great tip, Ellie. So thank you for that. So I'm going to come to Miriam. Miriam, what are you, what's your tip for this evening and what's your challenge?
Well, I think last year I did a social media made easy course, and which was fantastic. And what I really took from that was being consistent every single day without it taking up too much time. So to start with, it was taking me way too long. So now what I do is I set myself a timer. I have 10 minutes on Facebook in the morning, 10 minutes on LinkedIn, and 10 minutes on Instagram. And so that's really helped me to kind of condense my time and not get lost down the rabbit hole looking at lots of different things and getting distracted, which has been brilliant. And then obviously I go on also maybe in the afternoon and then in the evening once the kids are in bed before I just relax. But and also I really think it's important being personal. Because I'm an artist, I think it's it might be easier for me to be personal than say Beth the Pound, who might want to seem like you're professional and you're talking about money and you want people's confidence in you, and whereas I can say, oh my God, my studio is such a mess, look at it, but I'm going to produce an amazing piece of artwork. So I think for me, being personal is really important. My struggle is that I never know if I'm really reaching my potential clients. I get lots of lovely feedback. Everybody says, wow, really like your picture, amazing, da 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 da. But then to change it into a conversion, you know, that is my biggest struggle. So I don't know if my social media is, you know, holding me back in that way, if I haven't quite learnt how to make the sales, as it were, from my posts. Because also the other thing I'm really conscious of is that I don't want to be too salesy. I don't want to be selling all the time. I don't want to put people off that way.
Right, lovely. Okay, thank you. So we're going to go to Tina. Tina, over to you. What do you do well, do you think you can share as a tip? And what are you challenged by?
Yeah, well, because my business is so new, I've sort of taken a look and a review of what I did with corporate companies. And I think one tip is to prepare a content planner, a social media content planner. So rather than being reactive to what you see on either LinkedIn, whatever your choice, is that you've got something in place and then you can mirror it across the rest of the platforms if need be. For example, Instagram, if you're not too sort of well known with that or getting to grips with it, at least you're mirroring what you've planned, basically. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Start of March now is do my social media content, and then in between you can react to various things that you come across in your field. With me, because I've got quite a few I wear different hats, I'm going to concentrate on splitting them up and doing one thing at a time on what I specify in, and I think that will get the message across that about what I do and the services that I can provide. Another sort of, I wouldn't say tip, but a downfall is not putting a question in. I've been sort of guilty of that in the past. And if you don't engage, who's going to respond to you? People are just looking at it and then going on to the next. So I think questions are important. And, you know, apart from schedule that call, you know, ask a question. You're trying to engage and sort of get people to respond to you. So that's one of mine that I need to work on.
Can sorry to interrupt. Can I quickly ask, should the question, because I do put the question, but I usually do it at the end, but hardly anybody ever responds. So should it be at the top?
I would say, and whether it would be in capitals, to draw their attention to it. I would say others on the meeting might disagree, but I would say at the beginning is to say, and then enlighten and describe a little bit more about what you're asking the question about.
Yeah.
Arse backwards, really.
Can I throw 2 cents in here on this one as well, actually?
Yeah,
so putting questions in is really, really beneficial. I agree with you. But I will say, don't feel like you have to do it in every post, because it comes off then as inauthentic. And the most important thing is to reflect who you are and really truly be yourself and try and capture that on social media is the best thing you can do for your marketing.
So mix it up a bit, Bethan. Yeah,
mix it up a bit. If sometimes it's on top, sometimes it's on bottom, sometimes it's a rhetorical question that people maybe won't answer, and sometimes it's a very literal one that you're after something for. But there will be times where maybe you're just sharing a piece of news or an update that it wouldn't be suitable to squeeze a question in there. So don't feel like there's a formula you must follow in any post. I think keeping things interesting and different is going to be really helpful, along with trying to engage. And if you're not using questions an awful lot on your posts and you're struggling to find that naturally, engagement is still really important, but try and think of different ways to do it. What I would advise, so a lot of the people that I work with, I say, right, so who do you know that you've talked about recently, this topic that maybe you've posted about? Why can't you tag them in a comment and say, oh my God, forgot this was coming out on the content plan. This is really similar to what you and I were saying, and kind of finding those natural human connections and engaging in that way as well.
Great stuff. Thanks, Bethan. It's really useful.
Worries.
Thank you. So we're going to go to Carly now, Carly Audley. So Carly, are you there behind your screen?
I am, sorry. I'm just doing the kids' dinner, so it's been a bit of one of those crazy days. Yes, so my kind of tip, I suppose, is consistency. It's really important, isn't it, to stay consistent, and however that looks for you, if that's once a day or once a fortnight, but consistency is key. Also content. I love Instagram, and I think it's kind of a platform for entertainment, isn't it, rather than too much about me. It's an entertaining people in a way that you do things in your business. But my kind of weakness or my downfall is I want it to be perfect, and I want it to be now, and I want it to be entertaining to everybody, but I'm not there yet, and I'm not great at all the different kind of tools that I need to make videos good and entertaining. So that's it for me.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And we're going to go to the beautiful Yvonne, that I know is in a car and listening. So Yvonne, are you there? Would you like to share with us your top tip and your challenge?
Just a heads up, she's messaged to say she's getting kicked in and out, so I'm not sure if her connection's strong enough.
Losing us, so perhaps we can pick up with you later, Yvonne, if you're being challenged here. It keeps freezing, so we'll come back to Yvonne later. So without further ado, I'm going to be handing over to the amazing Bethan, who's going to be equipping us all with delights connected with social media and creating this lead generation. So over to you, Bethan. Shall I make you host?
Yes, please, so I can share the screen. That would be perfect.
Over to you, Bethan.
Thank you so much. So if I could just get a little thumbs up when you can see this, so I can make sure, yes, perfect. That's what I'm after. Thank you. So we're going to be talking about building your first funnel today. Interestingly, this is going to cover some of the challenges you were all talking about at the beginning. Unfortunately, it's not going to give you a time machine for those that said time is an issue. I completely relate. That's my biggest bugbear with social media. But it will help with some of those elements on how to convert, on how to make your social media more effective. And it'll actually give you a little bit more control than just social media as well, because we're going to be talking about your funnel in terms of email marketing. So to kick things off, I wanted to just give a bit of background about myself. I'm not expecting anyone to speed read this slide. I just filled it with as much info as I could about me for anyone who's interested. And I feel like there's so many people in the marketing space that class themselves as experts. I should explain what makes me an expert and what my background is. So I've been working in marketing for 10 years now, and I set up my agency in 2017. So I've been running my own business in the marketing space since then also. So I've learned a few things along the way, and I have a really big passion for helping business owners to develop marketing that isn't overwhelming, that doesn't feel confusing, and there being a clear path to create. So today I'm going to help you clearly understand how to develop a funnel. So we're going to cover 3 main topics. Firstly, why you need a freebie. Secondly, how to pick and create a resource for your freebie. And finally, then how to create a funnel itself. So for anyone who's confused, what is a freebie? I wanted to just explain this. So the reason I use the term freebie is because there's lots of terms for the resource that I'm talking about. It can be called a lead generation, a lead magnet, an opt-in, a free download, the list goes on. But it's basically a scenario where you get a free downloadable resource in exchange for an email address. So quite often it'll be in the form of blogs like this one with free blog post templates. Or it'll be something along the lines of this, like a landing page where there's just the option to put in your email address and name. And sometimes it'll look like what you can see on the screen here. So free 5-day challenge. That was a lead generation, just done slightly differently. So lead generation comes in all different shapes and sizes. And when you start looking, you will notice them everywhere. And the primary goal of these freebies then, why are you going to create one, is twofold. For your audience, it's going to mean that they are getting something for nothing. They are getting a big bonus, a benefit for you as to why they need your help. Usually it is something that's helping them understand that they need further help on a solution. But it's also helping them solve a short-term problem. So usually if it would be, for example, me in marketing, I'm going to give them something that will get them some of the way. It'll help them to start to take those first steps to fixing their issue, but it won't take them all of the way. They're probably going to need me to come in and help them towards the end. And as an added bonus for you as the developer of this, you are going to get their email address. You're going to get the ability to be able to get in touch with them. You're going to get GDPR proof approval to drop into their mailbox whenever you so feel like it. So whether you've got a product launch or whether you just want to check in and keep in touch with them, you then can do so. And I think email marketing is the way forward. I'm going to be honest, I will love social media and talk about how great it is all day long, but I don't think that anybody can build high conversion from followers to customers without email marketing. Firstly, because social media is not your platform. So if this looks familiar to anyone, the screenshot of Donald Trump's suspended account, you'll know that we can have our accounts deleted. We are following someone else's rules. We are on someone else's platform. If it can happen to, at the time, the president of the United States, it can happen to you and your business. And I don't mean this to scare anyone. I've heard far too many horror stories from business owners who've lost a password or been reported incorrectly as violating guidelines and ended up losing access to, in some cases, tens of thousands of followers of potential customers. Now, if you have an email list, they are no longer associated with social media. You can contact them all and say, hey, here's my new account. But if you're not utilizing email marketing, you don't have the power to do that. You can also better control when your content will be seen and by who. So Miriam, this ties in a little bit to what you were saying about struggling with knowing if it's the right target audience. Yeah. On social media, we post out our stuff and we don't really know where it goes. Sometimes it's our followers that see it. Sometimes it's their friends that see it. And it's really difficult to outline exactly who is seeing each individual piece and when. If anyone's on LinkedIn in particular, I find sometimes that I'm getting posts from 2-3 weeks ago of launches of programs to sign up for, that the deadline's already gone and I've missed that opportunity. And not only have I missed that opportunity, the person selling to me has also missed the opportunity for a potential customer there. On email marketing, you can do all sorts of different run-throughs, this is just an example of what you can do to separate up your audience. And I can send an email out to somebody who's in a specific group, who's opened previous emails and at a specific time. And finally, email recipients are primed to buy. This was one Google search worth of, we've got someone joining us. This was one Google search worth of pulling together data and screenshots. So in one Google search, I found that 60% of consumers that subscribe to a brand's email list are more likely to get deals, right? 3% of people are more likely to convert on email. The stats prove themselves. People are much more likely to buy if they are on your email list versus if they're just a follower. Now, these data figures, I'm going to say, are really low. In my opinion, if you have an engaged email marketing system, if your audience are already warmed up and primed to buy, you can sometimes get as much as 10 to 20% of people turning over and converting from an email list. And I'm going to hold my hands up and say you'll never get that high of a figure when you're working on social media. Even if you've got the best campaign ever, it will always be significantly less. Okay, so I mentioned conversion rates. 1% is what is expected when you're talking about online. And social media is really unreliable because this figure, this average conversion rate of 1%, refers to what they call engaged users. And social media followers may not have seen your content for months. They might not be in that engaged group. So email marketing can be a good example of this and allow you to plan out what your cash flow is going to be more effectively, to correctly estimate what you're going to make from launches, from new product announcements, and give you a little bit more control in your business. So that's why you need them and what they are. I wanted to move on then to give you a little bit of a breakdown of how to pick your topic. So once you've decided that you're going to do a lead gen, a freebie for people to download, you have to decide what it's going to be about and what you're going to create. So I've got a couple of little pieces of advice, and my big one that you can see at the top there is to be specific. So many of us will see examples in my industry. A really good example is like top 10 marketing tips. Now, that is going to be really full of valuable information. But I told you at the beginning of this session who my ideal customer was. It doesn't talk to them. It doesn't tell them that it's for them. It could be for a bike shop. For all I know, top 10 marketing tips could be for anybody. So remember who your niche is and what their problems are. So an example here would be my lead magnet would instead be top 10 marketing tips to turn your followers into high ticket coaching clients. It's wordier, but it's a lot more specific. And the people who are going to come across that will see, oh, that sounds like me. She's got a problem that I can solve. And when you're looking at lead gens, these people probably don't know you very well. They're probably just getting to start to dip their toes in your content, in your social media. So you kind of convincing them why they need to download is important. We're all a little bit hesitant about handing over our email addresses these days. So having something in it for them is going to help. And the other thing to mention here is a lot of us know what our audience's problems are before they do, don't we? We know that they might think that they need help with A, but I know that they need help with B. So if you're somebody that helps people, if you're in the coaching space, if you're in people with working with them on their mindset, maybe to take a step back here, it needs to be something that they're going to know that they need rather than maybe something that you know that they'll end up needing. And to create it, I want this to be as simple as possible. So I talked about how marketing can be quite overwhelming, and I recommend trying to simplify things as much as possible. And I do that with my clients. We're all creating content all day, every day, right? We're all creating resources for social media over and over again. I really would highly advise you to, first off, repurpose. what have you already got that you can pull out of the archive? Have you done, for example, a really good social media post with tips and tricks on it that you could maybe rejig and add a little bit of extra detail to, but you've got a starting point, so you've got something to work from? Have you got a workshop, a presentation or a webinar that you've done in the past that you could record yourself doing and share out? Whatever you can do to use what you've already created and make this a little bit more simple so that we're not spending so much time on content creation, I would recommend. And if you don't have that, that's not anything to be worried about. You can absolutely create things, but try and keep it simple. This is something, if you're just trying it for the first time, you're going to need a few practice rounds. You're probably going to make a few iterations of your first freebie. So when you first get started, I would say keep your investment in both time and money low. So don't go paying for a graphic designer to make you the swishest, fanciest template for your ebook. Don't go worrying about spending days upon days of research for your ebook or for your download. Try and keep it with things that you know off the top of your head, and you can make it in maybe a few hours instead of a few days. That goes for ads as well. I'd say don't go spending lots of money sending ads to your lead generation from the first point. Let it breathe a little bit, maybe get some feedback before you start that. And if you're going to be using something like Canva, if you're going to be creating your resource from scratch, use templates, use things that are going to make it as easy as possible for you. This is literally a screenshot. I typed in checklist for the first screenshot at the top here, and I typed in ebook for the second. And there are some really beautiful designs that you could use these if you wanted to do a financial health checklist, if you're Beth, if you wanted to do something around an ebook of the importance of art and how art impacts mood in your home, if you're Miriam, having these templates to lean on and start to create, make it a lot more easy. Just change the colors and the fonts to make it your brand and type in your bits quickly. Okay, so you have your thing to give. Now, how are you going to give it to them? This is where it starts to get a little bit technical. And I actually have some video tutorials to share with you because I thought that would be a lot easier than trying to explain it to you over a presentation. So I'll pop the links in the chat at the end, but the first thing you need is somewhere for people to download it from. So even if you don't have a website, you need a landing page, somewhere that people can pop in their email address and their name and hit submit and give a bit of detail around what your resource is. And the easiest way to do this is by using a mail system. So my preference, my recommendation here is something called MailerLite. And I do have a link for you all to be able to sign up as well. That is a free platform that your automation is also free in. So if any of you use MailChimp, you cannot do automated emails for free. On MailerLite, you can. So I would recommend starting off with something like this until your list grows. And it's either going to look like this. So this example here is one of my clients' blogs. And she quite simply at the bottom of her blog popped in a little form that's embedded into her website. Or you can have a landing page. So this is going to be a standalone web page that doesn't sit on your website. It's going to be something that you build on its own, and it's probably the most common of the two. There's lots of templates available on MailerLite, and you quite simply drag and drop, type in over what you need. It's not too complicated of a system to use, but like I said, I do have a tutorial that I'll pop in the description, in the chat for you all. The biggest thing to note is that you must have a form, a sign-up form, and you must have at least one field. Email. There might be a couple extra you want, like for myself, I also want name and I want company name because that's what's relevant for me in my business. Some of you may only want name, some of you may also need the location of the person that you're working with, depending on what you do. And you can also, in the bottom here where it says form settings, you can also make this GDPR compliant. You can add those little opt-in, opt-out boxes that you need to be able to be compliant. And that is technically how you get people's email. That is how you allow them to subscribe. But typically what is done in a lead generation is there is some sort of funnel. behind it. So to make your lives easier, so you don't have to keep sending out emails manually, and to let your customer get to know you, or your potential customer get to know you, I should say, I would say if you're all going to the effort to build out a freebie, you should also build a little funnel behind it. So here's going to be a few different emails that are automated. So once you've built them once, they'll automatically, anytime someone goes onto that landing page and hits submit, they will get sent these emails. And you can share key information with them so that you can get some of that nurture and trust with them. The two things you want to do are continue to give value, to continue to let them feel like they're getting something for a bonus from you, and to tell them a little bit about your programs to sell to them, and kind of alternating between giving value and selling in your funnel is really beneficial. So they don't feel like, oh, bloody hell, I've given her my email and now she's just trying to sell to me over and over again. They still get some of that free benefit. So they're still looking out for your emails and happy to receive them, but you also pop in a little sales here and there. So how many emails should you have? That is the first question I always get asked. I think 5 is plenty, at very most 10. And kind of alternating between free and sell for a couple of different email afterwards is going to be beneficial to you. But don't drag it out. If you feel like you're done in 3, please ignore me and just stick to 3. It's going to be so much more beneficial to just give them what you need to tell them than to try and drag this out, okay? It completely depends on how many different products you have, how much content and free resources you've already got backed up that you can offer them. So it's one of those questions that unfortunately goes, it depends on how many you could have got to offer. And like I said, I'd recommend kind of alternating. So the very first, oh, sorry, Miriam, go ahead.
Sorry, Bethan.
No.
Just really quickly. So you could send 3 emails or maybe more just on one offer.
So what I basically mean is your first email is going to be, they're going to get the 3 things they've asked for. That is going to be their first email. It's going to be a click here to download, thanks for registering, click for it.
Yeah.
Your second email is probably going to be something introducing yourself, right? It's probably going to be talking about you. Thank you for signing up for my mailing list. I'm Miriam and I'm the happy artist that makes beautiful pictures with lots of nice colors.
Yeah.
Your third email probably is going to be then another free thing. So let me actually, can I go one slide forward? Yes, here you go. So here's an example of my kind of subject lines. I'm sorry I can't show you each individual email, but that would be way too much. But to run you through kind of mine and to give you an example, the first one is their free thing that they asked for. The second one, I did a blog. Do you need a social media manager? 5 reasons you need a social media manager. So they're getting another bit of free resource, right? They're getting knowledge and benefit. Then I sell them something. I sell them a consultancy call, just very low ticket offer, something that's not a huge amount of commitment. It's just a one-off call. Then I give them something else for free. Then they get a free social media scheduler. So content plan template that Tina mentioned earlier, like having something to use to write their content into. Then again, I'm going to try and sell them something. So they get a 30% off code for any services. And you kind of alternate between your different products and value. And what I'd say is as you get deeper into the funnel, you can kind of increase the value of the product. So when you first get started, you want it to be something really easy to commit to, preferably under £100 if you've got anything that's within that range, or if not, whatever your cheapest option is. And as you go on, this last email I send is for my full whack 6-month social media, like sign up to work with us as an agency sort of service. So you shouldn't just send 3 or 4 different emails that are all about one service. It should kind of go through the story of your business and all your different products and kind of take them through that journey. Okay, I hope that kind of helped move the slide along, and I hopefully answered the question. But please do hop up if there's anything else you're unsure about. So the big thing for me is that we want to be customer led. we want to be working towards what our clients want. So actually, Cheryl outlined it earlier, talking about your value proposition, your mission statement being what your customers want to see. This is how I recommend you think about all things marketing, and keep this in mind when you're writing. What do they want to see from you? Not what do you want to tell them? So what I developed here was based off of feedback I'd had from clients and from people I was connecting with, not just what I thought they needed to hear. So I'd recommend you do a little bit of market research with the people in your network and just ask them, like, hey, if I was going to send you this email list, and maybe send them a bullet point of 3 to 5 topics and say, would you want to read all of these? If they say no, then maybe swap out a couple of titles, let your audience create your content for you. And write as you speak. You want to be you. We want you to be who you are on email, so that if they ever then go to get on a call with you, it's not jarring. They know who to expect, and you're consistent on social media, on email marketing, and then when they get in touch with you. If anyone's from a corporate background, we can quite often accidentally slip into that sort of tone when we're creating email copy, especially. But just a couple of top tips then for you. Obviously, you want to make sure your grammar is correct. You don't want to be getting emails back saying, by the way, there's a typo here. That's a little bit embarrassing, and you can't change it once it's been sent on, and like you can on social media, you can't edit an email. For some points, especially if you're somebody who's working not just locally, if you're working nationally, internationally, try not to use too much local colloquialisms or slang unless they are widely accepted or that they're widely used by your ideal customer. And focus on speaking to and about your reader. So if you're reading it and you feel like you're talking about I and we all the time, you might need a little redraft there. You want to be focusing on them. So it should be you, and helping people connect. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to this rule. If you're giving an outline of your business and you say I, we, that's going to be expected. But for the most part, on especially your value-led content, you want it to be about them. And do what I haven't done in this presentation and try and keep it short. You want to be to the point, you want to be concise, you want them to read it. People don't read long blobs of text through email anymore. And I also have some advice on how to build a funnel. So I've told you kind of the strategy and the theory behind it, but I have a video to technically show you how you can develop both the landing page first off and the funnel as well. So if you are going to download MailerLite as a software now and you're going to go and get started, I can't sit there with you over your shoulder and show you how to do it, but this YouTube video can. So you can get a little run through on exactly how to use the software and technically build it out. I'll pop the links, but you can also just search Bethan Wright on YouTube and it looks a little bit like that. And yeah, that's everything that I needed to go through today. So I wanted to kind of allow for if anybody has any questions or burning priority that they want to get in touch with me. Obviously, if you want to get in touch after the fact and do a one-to-one about this sort of thing, I'm happy to as well.
So shall we open up for questions? So do you want to come off screen share, Bethan?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So I know, has Kathy Annandale joined us? Is that the lady who joined us? Yes, Kathy joined us. I thought she was joining us. I know she was going to a garage. So we're now open for questions. So please, this is your time to get all those searching questions answered. Let's go for it. Who's the first question? Who's going to ask the first question? So Ellie, over to you.
Oh, hi Bethan, thank you very much for all of that. It's really useful. I was researching a couple of weeks ago the best time to post for social media. Do you think there is a best time, or do you think it's more about who your target audience is and how and what you're posting about?
So first off, the best place to find that out is going to be from your analytics rather than Google. So in your analytics, I'm not sure what platforms you're using, but Facebook and Instagram specifically have a lot of information on the back of them as to when your followers are online. So that's going to tell you the best time. I'm going to be honest though, most of the time everyone's like, yeah, they're always online. So I don't know which time is best because it just says they're all online at the same time. So I'm a big advocate for it's your best time is if you're working with busy mums, you're not going to want to count them at 3:30 when they're on a school run, are you? So no matter whether the generic advice is to post at that time or not, I don't think it's relevant. I think everyone's audience is slightly different.
It's interesting also, thank you for that. It's interesting also because Cheryl and I had a conversation yesterday, didn't we, Cheryl, about email marketing strategies, and this is something I think I need to get some help with. So I'll get in touch with you if you don't mind, Beth, and maybe we can chat further about it.
Of course.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything I can do to help.
Can I just add something in for you, Ellie? Because I looked at, when it comes to women's services, what the best time was to post on social media and to send out emails. And it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Different times in the day. So 10 o'clock. I think it was 2 o'clock. 5 o'clock. And then after 8 o'clock.
That's kind of similar to what I'd seen as well, but I wasn't entirely sure because I think again you can go down a rabbit hole in terms of researching what's the best time to do something at, and it's not necessarily working for you. So that's just quite interesting. Thank you.
There we go.
I think all things marketing, test and see. Right, make a note. I would say post at those times for maybe the next week, and if any stand out as performing particularly well, write that down and use that as part of your strategy moving forward.
Well, I think my strategy moving forward is actually to sort my SH1T out and actually not be so frightened of writing my posts and just actually getting on and doing it. And I'm the world's biggest procrastinator when it comes to social media because, to be honest, I haven't really got a huge amount of business from it. So I think, well, what's the point? When I first set my business up 20 odd years ago, social media really wasn't out there. It was the old fashioned, write and prep an advert, get your design to prep an advert, and that advert would go into the local press, which, would be quite an expensive thing to do, but it would actually yield a lot of business. So this is quite interesting for me because obviously I've had to move with the times, and unfortunately this whole kind of everybody's online all the time, it's just me. It's me that's the issue, not necessarily that. It's just me.
You know what, just to add to that, I'm going to say it's really unlikely that people are going to see a social media post and just buy, and it be that like that's the trigger that's going to cause them to go and purchase something. But it does help, and the thing it really helps with is how fickle people are these days. And if you're staying top of mind and they see you post on social media a week before a competitor when they're looking for something, that's going to be what cinches it. So it's going to take lots of touch points to get people to convert. So if you're finding your social media is not working, kind of think about which metrics you're tracking, because if it's sales, that might not be the best way to garner kind of what's been successful for you on social.
And I think actually I did tinker with some lead pages and some funnels quite during lockdown. I think there's a huge amount of platforms out there, but again, it's knowing which platform is going to be applicable to you and how it works for you and how you like it. I use lead pages, and I found lead pages really quite easy to use, but it was just really expensive. So it's that trade between getting as much value for money from using a platform like that without kind of breaking the bank as well. But
that's why I wanted to give a free option, because the ClickFunnels is the other leader that's really great, and people who use it absolutely sing about it, but it's so expensive.
It's really expensive.
For a lot of small business owners, it's just not justifiable.
No, and I think as well, like you said, it's all about working out what your budget is and doing that accordingly. I did actually sign up to a very interesting platform which was in beta testing mode, and it's absolutely great, but the problem was I wasn't using it to its full potential. I had all these great ideas. You could do your sales and your lead pages, you could build very, very, very simply and very, very well, but it was just too expensive for what I needed. So I've just binned it and decided to go back to basics, I think, really. So Thanks, Bethan.
No worries. Happy to help.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
Cassie, I know you have used email marketing quite a lot and worked with Google quite a lot when you were developing the kitchen bureau. So could you add something here with regards to how you managed all this email marketing?
Yeah, well, we put it out to an agency that did all the they did searches, and the Google AdWords really is where we found most success, because you know, in the kitchen retail, you know, we like Beth has said, you just got to test. We came back, we were getting most back from our Google ads, which doesn't suit everybody, but we were able to come up with a formula. You put, you know, £1 in, you get £1.48 out. So you just do that all day long then, if once you've established that. But without testing, you get there eventually. You find your own thing.
Did
Yeah,
you?
and
Sorry, I was just
sorry, I was just
over to you, Beth. And go on.
I was just going to say, and the other thing is, I think people get stuck with testing. Is sometimes they're testing what will get them best return on investment. And sometimes return on investment is not the marker, like I kind of alluded to there with Ellie, with social media. There's certain things that return on investment isn't going to be beneficial straight away. It's going to be like a year later, 2 years later, you can look back and go, wow, this has really made me a lot of money. But at the very beginning, it's kind of not going to do anything. A good example here is my YouTube channel. When I first started posting on YouTube, it was really felt like a waste of my time. I was making so much content. Now I get people get in touch with me from a video, well, from actually the how to build your funnel video that was filmed back in 2020, and I still get people get in touch and go, can you do my email marketing for me from the back of that? So it's testing and consistency is kind of the keys, I think.
I was going to ask Kathy if she ever put in place a sales funnel with giving away a free gift, and did you set up an email campaign, or was it just Google Ads?
Thinking back now, we had it was a very we did have funnels, and certain seasons we do different giveaways, and we also did a lot of well, before the lockdown things, we had a lot of parties on the premises. So we did a lot of giveaways at those kind of events and created a lot of social media around that. Mm-hmm. But then we found it more difficult when, obviously, with lockdown, that we had to scrabble around, and that's when I got the agency doing the Google ads. We also had great benefit from filming our customers showing off their kitchens. That was the best, because you got your customer actually doing the sales job for you. That worked really well. The other thing that comes to mind as you're talking is when you're starting out in business, you have in your head, you have to be very careful about this. You want to be on the map. Now, there's a very big difference between I'm going to spend all this money making sure everybody knows I exist and I'm on the map, and getting sales. That's a whole different thing. So you have to be really, really careful that the ego part of your head, you know, that's made this incredible, you know, place or come up with this amazing concept, and you want the world to know about it, and all your friends, and prove all the people you're in school with, you know, the whatever it is going on in your head. You've got to be really careful, because money is flying out at the same time. So you got to always, yes, you do want to put yourself on the map. You've got to be really careful that you are getting that return on investment straight away, because the lifeblood of your business, especially right at the beginning, get that money in. Sales.
Yeah, sales and marketing are not the same thing, and I think a lot of people when they first get started think they are.
That's it.
But yeah, sales is going to be still vital, no matter what. No matter if you've got like millions of social media followers, you're still going to need to do sales.
I was going to ask you, Bethan, is there any tips you can tell us with regards to, because last time we were looking at that orbit where people were projecting how many sales they were looking for, and we came to an equilibrium that about 10% of those sales should be put towards marketing. But I think a lot of people get really confused how do they manage putting a budget aside for marketing, and then how do they put together a marketing plan? So what would your advice be on that? Because I know you're an expert at putting these plans together.
I mean, if you're really confused, you can hire me to do it for you. If I want to put a little plug out there. But yeah, I think with the plan is keep it simple. When you talk strategy, I think people get confused by just the idea of a strategy is overwhelming. And you can write it on a bloody back of a coaster on a napkin. Like, a strategy is just writing down a plan at the end of the day. So I think having something written down and testing it for maybe 3 to 6 months, and then looking back at that and seeing what worked and what didn't, is the best thing you can do in terms of planning.
So what would a strategy look like, say, for example, for somebody like Ellie, who's got an aesthetics business and she wants to put a strategy together for the next 3 months, when she doesn't like social media platforms and perhaps she feels more comfortable sending emails? What would be her sort of starting point? What would you advise her to do?
So in terms of a plan, it's just going to break down what your goals are, what the KPIs are going to be, so what the performance indicators, how you're going to track whether those goals are being hit or not. And then your activities, and I tend to include then a few content related things. So your activities will be how often you're posting, how many email marketing send outs are you doing a month? Are you doing a blog post, or maybe you're going to do YouTube videos like me? But like, what are your activities going to be? And then what your content is going to be about. So what are your content pillars, we call them in the industry? So I'm going to talk about before and after results is probably going to be one of your pillars, showing what people have done and what they've been in and had, and how great they look afterwards. Then another one is probably going to be helping people get to know you. So sharing your background, sharing your story, anything under the topic of getting to know you. And a third one I would say would be maybe education would be a nice one for yourself. Things about like the safety of aesthetics and what helping people understand what you do and what other companies do, so you can set yourself apart. Those would be the 3 that would come to mind off the top of the dome. Obviously, you'd have to do a bit of research into that. And then finally, a little bit of competitor analysis. So what are the social channels of the people that you're competing with? It's no good kind of saying, I want 10,000 followers and I want at least 100 likes in every post, and then you look at all your competitors and maybe they're only on 2,000 and getting like 20 likes. So you can then be able to just set your goals a little bit more realistically. And if you've got a really big competitor, so for me in marketing, there's going to be some massive companies that I could compare myself to, right? That's not going to be helpful. If I'm saying there's Ogilvy and Mather, the PR agency in the middle of London that's got millions upon millions, me comparing myself to them is not going to be very helpful. But finding a competitor that's just above me to kind of stretch to is quite nice.
Thanks, Bethan. One very quick question, actually. I do follow quite a few of my competitors because I kind of stalk them to see what post, what kind of content they're doing, all this kind of thing. And one particular individual, she's an attraction marketeer, and her marketing, to be fair, she seems to generate a lot of interest that leads to bookings. So it leads to potential phone call sales, whatever you want to call it. So her way of creating a sales funnel. But the she gets very few likes or shares or anything like that on any of her social media posts, which is really fascinating. So I think possibly maybe again for me, it's all about just being there, but not necessarily having people engage with the page or the likes or whatever. But then people, they don't necessarily come from Facebook, if that makes sense, but they then pick up the phone or they Google my business and or they hop onto the website and they do it that way rather than, you know, engage with social media posts. I know
I think in
hide on social
I was going to
media.
say, I think in your industry as well, it's quite specific, where some people are going to want to be quiet about connecting with you.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely
not going to want to be commenting going, wow, sign me up to get my lips done and make sure all their friends can see that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think you've got a little bit of an element there that's unique to what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it's about KPIs, right? So if you're then saying that your big goal for social media is to get more bookings or to get more people to click through to find out more about you to your website, you can track that instead of tracking your likes and comments, and your content pieces go out then just as the reminders for people to be able to see and connect with you. Not that you should not aim to build an engaged audience, I'm not saying that, but I definitely put followers far down on the list of what you should aim for on social. So if vanity metrics like likes and comments tie into that as well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that I think social media for me is just almost like a window shopping, and people will see, I don't know, something maybe 6 or 7 times, maybe more than, then they will engage with you, which is quite interesting. So I think the key for me, as everyone else was saying earlier on about consistency, making that marketing plan, but getting that consistency and automating the whole process, because I'm very time poor at the moment. I'm really busy, but I'm very time poor. So I think for me, the planning is probably, and the goal setting is probably the most important part for me. So,
and just as an aside, because you're almost people are buying into a product with you, they're coming in and making a one-off purchase. If you wanted to do a lead generation really quickly for a turnaround, you could do vouchers. So that's something I didn't mention in the presentation, but for anyone who's like selling a thing that they can purchase a 10% off, 20% off sort of voucher that you have people sign up here for your 10% off is a really effective and quick one. You don't have to make anything to go with it.
Yeah, no, I've actually done that, and it's quite interesting because most people won't necessarily engage in order to get their 10% off voucher, because it means that, you know, my T's and C's, they sign up to their 10% off voucher, but they never book an appointment. So there's obviously a problem with my lead generation.
Once you've got their email, you can nurture them for months and months to come until it's time to pull the trigger, maybe until they've saved up the backlog enough that they've got enough money to do it, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bethan.
Sorry, just a quick one. Thanks, Bethan. The marketing plan that you've just outlined, keeping it simple. In my case, it's a bit difficult because during lockdown, a lot of virtual assistants have sort of come into the marketplace. When looking through your marketing plan, is there anything that you would recommend that I could do differently or think down another road or a different avenue that would make me stand out from the rest, please?
Oof, that's a hard question to answer. I think the clearest answer to that question is to be yourself. No one else can be you. And I think we all fall into the habit, myself included, of trying to portray this like perfectly created social content, right? So we all kind of put our personalities to the side to write out what we think people want to see. And as much as I do think you should create content for your user in mind, I think the way you do it should be as you. So you might have a theme that you're talking about that you know your customer wants to see, but I think to do that and really stamp yourself into it is going to be really beneficial. If results is the number one goal to this social media, however, I'll say that doing things that are engaging with your audience is very beneficial in your instance as a virtual assistant. So I'm assuming you're on LinkedIn as a platform.
Yes, so very much so, yeah.
Okay, so something really simple like a poll where you message every single person who's answered that poll is going to be a little bit time consuming, but you're going to be able to start a conversation with those people and quite quickly go from starting a conversation to, do you want to do a virtual coffee? Or do you want to do a face-to-face coffee? And it lets you sell. So remember, those sales and marketing elements will tie together in that case, and really trying to push, I mean, push is maybe the wrong word, but trying to move a relationship forward and actually develop with people off platform is going to be what I'd say would be the number one benefit for you to get clients.
It's priceless.
No,
thank you.
I'd like to ask you, Bethan, what is the approach when you've got such a large audience to actually warm up that audience? Because Iron Woman's been running now for 10 years, but I have a lot of what I would call like passive customers out there. So how do you almost decide, am I going to cull them, or how do I warm them? Because I almost get frustrated thinking, should I warm them or cull them? What's the solution?
Good question. Do you mean on social or on email?
Both, because on social media, I'm across the platforms, I must have about just under 30,000 followers. That's a lot of people.
And that's a lot of noise as well when you're trying to connect to those people, and you've got lots of people that are disengaged. You're kind of doing yourself a disservice in the algorithm and all of that. I would say a cull of people who maybe, if they're no longer your ideal customer as a first wave, just this person now is no longer running their own business. They've gone back to employment. They're a man. or whatever the case may be, and kind of just cleaning out those people who don't fit your ideal customer. I'm assuming as well that's probably changed quite a lot over the time that you've been running the business. That would be my first thing. And then if it's on email, you can do a re-engagement funnel, which is quite nice. So you can kind of take them through. It's very similar to a lead gen in the format, where you can segment who you've been in touch with by people who have not opened anything for a while, and send them something that is going to be attention grabbing. It's a free something. It's maybe a little bit shocking or an unpopular opinion, to get them to go and open up their inbox and have a little look at it. And that'll start the process of re-engaging them, then give them something for value, tell them about new products, and kind of go through that. On social, it's a lot harder to re-engage people because they're only going to see what they're going to see. And a lot of the time, those 30,000 won't even see your content. So I've got to be really honest with you, it's going to be a lot harder on social. I think whatever you can do in the terms of manual outreach, like I said to Tina, going through and messaging those people and being like, oh my God, it's been forever, hi stranger, and just being yourself in one-to-one would be really beneficial to try and re-engage some of them. And they will then start to see your content if you're talking to them in DMs or on LinkedIn or whatever platform. And I would say I would plan a campaign around it. I would probably do a really noisy campaign, maybe even some ads of people who like my page but haven't been connecting, because that is something you can outline from, especially on Facebook. The outlining of that is really strong, so that they definitely are seeing something, and it's something that's going to catch their attention. So a good one is unpopular opinions that people aren't wanting to see, but maybe it's things they need to hear that they're not ready to hear, kind of thing.
Because it's quite interesting, looking across the screen, a lot of us, we're not looking for thousands of people. No. We're probably looking over a year for a few hundred. So when you're faced with almost like social media following of 30,000, you think, it's easier for me to cull you and start again, because really I'm only looking for tops 300 people. But it seems a bit radical, doesn't it, saying, I'm going to cull you? Yeah,
I agree. I think it's all going to be about kind of grading your audience and just knowing who are your key people, because we all have it. I've still got only about 1,000 on each platform, but at least 1,000 to 1,500 on each platform, and I feel like that's too much sometimes, because I know some of those are just noise. They're not seeing my content, they're not engaging with me. So it's an exercise we can all probably do with doing a little bit of, whether that's 30,000 or maybe a couple of us have just got a few hundred we're looking at re-engaging.
Lovely. I'm going to call in Beth the Pound, because Beth does emails a particular way, because she's not looking at quantity, she's looking at quality. So I'd be really interested to know how somebody like Beth will be working with things like lead magnets that you've suggested, and also working, putting together campaigns when she's working more or less one-to-one. Beth the Pound, could you come in and sort of pose your question to Beth the Social?
I do have a lead generation magnet that I use. I have just put it up on LinkedIn, so you can look at it if you're interested. Which is designed to get quite a lot of information on the person. So basically it's a questionnaire And the person who's filled it in will straight away get a report telling them a little bit of analysis of what their personality is with regards to money. And I get a version as well, which gives me a little bit more in-depth analysis of what they said. And it gives me their email address, so I can then go back to them and say, oh, it's really interesting to see that these points are obviously important to you. Quite interested to see that actually you're not interested in these other things, and it's an excuse to engage. And then I will follow up a couple of weeks later. But as Cheryl says, I very much do everything on an individual basis. It's just the industry I'm in, really. It's more important I build that one-to-one relationship with people than try and just put myself out there in a broader way. But it is very time consuming to do.
Yeah, I think there is some stuff that you could automate, but I agree. Same for me. I'm a coach on one half of my business and I'm an agency owner on the other. People need to know me, to trust me, to talk to me before they're even going to consider signing up. So it's always going to be one-to-one. It's always going to be very time consuming to do, but there are some elements that you could automate if you so choose. So you could have that email, for example, set up to go out, but have it that you don't have to manually send it. So just little things like that, to just take one thing off your to-do list is what I'd recommend. Just slowly but surely, where it seems natural, look to just transfer some of that stuff over. There's some on email marketing these days, you can do some really great variations, so you don't have to just say hi name at company. There's other ways that you can differentiate, especially for you. I would say maybe not even an email marketing system, maybe something like a CMS or a client management system would be the best way to do it. So I use something called Dubsado for onboarding all my clients, and it is very individualized but automated. So it might be better off for you to use something like that rather than a mass mailing system. So when someone signs up, they get that result and they get that follow-up done by the computer, not by you, but it does really take into consideration what they filled out in their previous elements, and certain actions will trigger certain things.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
No worries.
I wanted to add in that in the chat box here, we've got some great comments from Yvonne, who I know would have loved to have joined us, but she's in a car. And she says, you know, she's put some tips in there that she has different days for different items of social media, what she would be talking about on those different days. So thank you for sharing that, Yvonne. And sorry you're traveling and we can't have you part of us this evening, but thank you for dropping in. So I'd be really interested now to know, what have you enjoyed most about this evening? Because Bethan, what you've shared this evening is golden. You know, I feel as though you've sprinkled gold dust over all our social media activity, over all our sales funnels, and you really have positioned yourself as, I would say, a thought leader on all these aspects. And I'm sure all of us, if we don't need your services right now, we're going to hold you in mind for the future, and you'd be our first point to recommend our clients, customers and friends to. So thank you so much. So could we put our hands together and thank Bethan for an amazing evening of knowledge sharing? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bethan. Great stuff. Thank you.
Incredible. I'd like to go around now for you to share with us what golden nugget have you picked up from this evening, and how are you going to put it to work in your business? So Kathy, you're first on screen for me this evening. So what have you got out of this evening, and how are you going to put it into action?
It's just reminded me of a lot of things, and thinking about, you know, as an author about to promote a book, it's creating some buzz, but also making sure that there is an interaction with that. So, you know, because for me it's about building a list now, to promote further books to. So definitely got to keep that funnel in mind all the time. What's happening next? You know, where are we moving these people to, and how? And the other thing is it's not just thinking about your funnel where you want them to be. It's what value you're giving them. You know, give them more. So
Excellent, thank you, Kathy. And coming to you, Tina, what has been your golden nugget this evening?
I think to revisit my marketing plan and to keep it simple, not overcomplicated. And via LinkedIn is to go back to my contacts and direct approach them and, sort of let's see whether we can meet up virtually for a coffee and try that suggestion by Beth, which is invaluable. Thank you very much, Beth. Thank you.
Tina. And coming to you, Beth the Pound. I hope you like being called Beth the Pound.
I do quite like it, yeah. I just need the reminder that I put together a really good marketing plan at the start of the year, and then I got really busy and I haven't really followed it. So I do need to make myself go back to that and remind myself, I put all that work in at the start of the year. I really should be reaping the benefits now. It's easy when you're busy, you just forget.
Lovely, thank you. And coming to you, Ellie, what have you got out of this evening? How will you put it to work?
So I'm brandishing a book, that book, that Building a Brand Story. Interestingly enough, this is going to be a little bit of light reading for me this evening, but Bethan, thank you so much for your advice. A lot of this actually I do already know, but I think it's the could never be bothered factor that got in the way. So I think for me, my golden nugget is sit down, plan, put that plan into action, and actually start to do something. I think just consistency is key, I think. So thank you for all your help and advice.
Lovely, thank you, Ellie. And coming to you, Miriam, what golden nugget have you enjoyed this evening? How will you put it to work?
It's been absolutely fabulous, Bethan. Thank you so much. I did a lead magnet at the end of last year, but what the golden nugget for me has been this evening is that I need to follow through and also let them know about like exhibitions that I'm doing and letting them know about markets I might be attending or shops that I'm now being available, stocked in and things like that. So I'm not going to be too scared to contact them again, because I know what it's like when you constantly get an email and it's like, oh God, it's from so-and-so again. So I haven't wanted to do that. So I just do it once a month. But I think if every now and again, I can just email my client list, I think that's what I need to do. And the other thing is that I had just a realization that it doesn't have to be sell, sell, sell. It can just be, hey, just thought I'd let you know that this is happening. Why don't you pop over to my website, or why don't you just do this? So having a more friendly approach.
Or even enjoy this new picture I've just made.
Painted.
Yeah. My inspiration, and
yes,
and this is who bought it, and this is what they thought about it, and this is where they're going to hang it. And
yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yes.
Yeah, they can just enjoy that whole experience of the piece of work being created.
Yeah. Yes, because I do that on social media. So I do like a video of the work in progress, and then if it's all gone horribly wrong, I also show that as well. And that is when I get the most response, because I've had a great big canvas before, and all of a sudden I've just got a sponge and wiped it all out, and then that's been like the hugest response when everyone's gone, oh my God, what are you doing? That's crazy. And then I've gone, no, but this is the end result. This is much better. And they're like, oh. Yeah, so I could also use that in an email.
I was going to say, so we all talked about time at the beginning being an issue. Definitely, if you're continuing on after your funnel's finished and you're going to send them out monthly emails, please repurpose things. So if you've got that on social media, just put that out in an email. If it's done anything that anyone's done that performs really well on social, using that on email. And remember, before you decide that they've hated that your email, they signed up for it, and they can unsubscribe if they don't want it. So don't feel like you can't get in touch with them when they've said, yeah, I want to hear from you. They've told you they like you and they want to hear more, Miriam.
Yeah, thank you. Brilliant.
And it can be quite a positive when somebody's unsubscribed, because you think, well, you were never going to buy anyway. Thank goodness you've come off the list.
Yes, and I don't have to cull you.
Yes, you don't have to be culled. So I don't know if you're there, Yvonne, and can hear us and would like to chip in what your golden nugget has been from this evening. No, I can't hear Yvonne there. So thank you, everyone, and amazing thank yous to Bethan, who has really equipped us in so many ways. And I know this is going to be a must watch YouTube clip that we'll all keep running back over and trying to pick up this tip, that tip, or download the link. So do make sure you download these links that have come up on screen here in the chat box. Yeah, what an amazing evening. And next week, we've got Beth the Pound speaking. So Beth is going to be telling us about all things managing our money and staying out of debt. So can you give us a quick little synopsis, Beth, of what you're going to be sharing next Tuesday evening?
Yeah, I haven't actually thought about it very much yet. I did start researching for about half an hour yesterday. But no, I've been looking into how people are getting into debt as much as the standard tips you hear about how to get out of it. I'm thinking more about the business side of debt than personal debt, really, because we're all in business, aren't we?
And I'm sure you'll be fielding all things money.
Yes.
Fab. Because I think we're all interested in all things money, because I think a lot of people do go to Beth and they pose, this is where my money is going, which is why I can't do these things. And I know, Beth, you do act as a bit of an agony aunt as far as helping people make sense of their money in business as well.
Well, I try, because I do think there's an awful lot of jargon out there and people do get quite bogged down and scared of things. So really my goal is to demystify these things and make them a little bit more manageable to get your head around so that you can plan properly. Too many people are scared to look at their money properly because they don't understand it. So they just think, I'll look at it tomorrow. And that's how people get into trouble. So if I can get people's eyes open so that they're thinking a bit more clearly, I can take some of that stress away, just so people feel confident they know what they're doing. And then my job's done, really.
Well, lovely. That's next Tuesday evening. So I just want to do a quick little advert for I Am Woman. We have our International Women's Day on March the 8th. That's a must come to event. We've managed to secure Shelley Lane, who, even though she lives locally, works internationally. She does the most amazing hair and sculptural building of hair. And she's donned nearly all of the top magazine covers, won so many international awards. She's one of the few hairstylists that actually puts hair collections together that goes on exhibition in Russian galleries and lots of galleries throughout the world. And she started local and is going to be talking about how you start local, but really by following what she's done can work internationally. So I know there's a lot of you who have almost like local humble beginnings like she did. And she's now the global ambassador for Milkshake hair products. And before COVID, in 52 weeks of the year, she was in 52 different countries promoting Milkshake as a brand and her work. You know, people fly from all over the world, including Switzerland, to Aberkenfig, which is where she's got her gallery and her salon. She's an amazing lady, and we've managed to secure her as a speaker. Yvonne is going to be speaking about her cracker story, and I'm sure you know Lorna and Lorraine, who are also launching the fairy tale business, and I've connected her with Shelley, and they're going to do an amazing photo shoot that's going to go into a global international exhibition together. And again, that's all through the power of I Am Woman and being introduced to the right people, and they're going to be sharing that journey with us as well. So it's going to be a fantastic evening. And I was saying to Ellie, she really has to meet Shelley, because it's very rare you get an opportunity to have somebody of that caliber come and speak locally. And so it's one of those golden moments where you can almost like tap somebody for connections, whether it's into, you know, either products, as far as if you're going to develop a product or take a product to market, some great advice on how to train people in using your products as well. So we're so lucky to have Shelley. So do make sure that, you know, you support this event. We're going to do a mini fundraiser for Llamau, for the housing of homeless people as well, locally within Wales. And they specialise in rehoming mothers and children who have been displaced in Wales. So we've got a great fundraiser happening as well. And Llamau are organising some prizes, and I'm sure when I come to you, you're going to give me a little prize as well. So it's going to be an amazing evening, and that's March the 8th. So do mark it in your diary, and bring along a friend, or even buy a table at the event, because it's going to be fantastic. So I won't hold you up any further. I know you want to put the kettle on and have a quick wee and put your feet up and watch the telly. So thank you, everyone. If anyone needs to hang on online and have a chat, I'll hang on here if you needed to catch up with me. But I'm going to switch the recording off. But let's put our hands together from Bethan, who is a superstar. Thank you, Bethan. And
Thank you, Bethan.
an amazing, amazing presentation. And I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Cheerio, everyone. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Cheerio.